This Week in Connecticut with Dennis House starts now.
Welcome to This Week in Connecticut. Greetings, everyone. I'm Dennis House. You just saw the very latest from Ukraine on This Week with George Stephanopoulos. And right now, we have the Connecticut angle on the crisis in Ukraine and why you should care. A local expert will join us. Plus, the police officer shortage reaching critical levels and the police family who's protecting many towns in our state. And another U.S. Senate candidate is coming forward saying Richard Blumenthal needs to go. Also, mastodons in Connecticut, uncovering that and more in suburban Hartford.
And so that they're very aware of the potential for tremendous destruction that can be meted out to Ukraine. They are very familiar with who Vladimir Putin is.
In your judgment, what should President Biden and Connecticut lawmakers do about the situation over there?
I think just people are afraid of getting into law enforcement because they don't know what to expect over the next couple of years.
So if someone said to you, you know, I don't want to be a police officer because of the following reasons, how would you persuade them that they perhaps should become a police officer?
Ever since we were little, all of us, we'd see our father come in uniform and everything. I had 7 siblings, and out of the 8 of us, 4 of us became officers.
There are some who would call you a long shot candidate. What's your strategy to victory? So mastodons ruled Connecticut at one point. First up on This Week, the lead, the ongoing crisis in Ukraine. Russia has invaded Ukraine, surrounding its borders and making its way toward the capital city. The country is under a state of emergency as Russians have surrounded most of Ukraine's borders, and they're trying to establish a foothold in the central part of the country. There are airstrikes, tanks, and artillery moving through the country. People are fleeing homes in the east for safe haven in the western part of the country, and even fleeing the country altogether. Ukrainian leaders are sounding the alarm, while Ukrainians living here in the northeast are condemning Russia's leader, Vladimir Putin.
I understand that some countries may think this is not our fight. We have to wait and see how it ends up. Some believe that we have excellent relations with Russia. Why should we put them at stake? But this is not about Ukraine. This is really about the destruction of the world order.
Our former oppressor. You know, Russia has colonized Ukraine. Russia has invaded Ukraine numerous times. And as the Soviet Union, it has committed genocide against the Ukrainian people. You may keep threatening Ukraine, but I'm going to keep being proud of being Ukrainian.
Joining us now is Alex Kuzma. He is the Chief Development Officer for the Ukrainian Catholic University Foundation. And Mr. Kuzma, thanks so much for being with us here today.
Thanks very much, Dennis.
Mr. Kuzma, why should the world and why should Connecticut care about what happens in Ukraine?
It's important for our viewers here in Connecticut to understand that Ukraine is not some kind of a wasteland. Ukraine is one of the most productive agricultural countries in the world. It's one of the top 5 exporters of wheat, barley, corn, maize, sunflower seeds. This is a country that's feeding many areas of the world, and it's one of the richest agricultural lands in the world. In a time of food scarcity around the world, it's really important to keep Ukraine intact, producing these kinds of foodstuffs. And it's also an important hub of technology development. A lot of people don't realize, you know, between Igor Sikorsky, we're familiar with him, but, you know, Steve Wozniak is a man of Ukrainian roots, Jan Koum from WhatsApp. This is an area of the world that's producing some of the most brilliant innovations around the world, and we depend on those innovations and breakthroughs for our communications and for all of the things that we now take for granted.
For those viewers who don't know, what is the Ukrainian population like here in Connecticut?
The last U.S. Census said that it's about 20,000 people here in Connecticut, so it's a fairly sizable and very vibrant community here in Connecticut.
Is it growing?
Yes, it has, because of some of the fourth wave immigration that's come through over the last 20 years or so.
So what are they saying about what's going on overseas right now in their homeland?
Well, they're very concerned, obviously. You know, these are people that are either the children of or grandchildren of people that have lived through the Soviet era, and so that they're very aware of the potential for tremendous destruction that can be meted out to Ukraine. They are very familiar with who Vladimir Putin is. They know that he's a war criminal that's responsible for major war crimes in Chechnya during that war, and he's somebody that admires Joseph Stalin, who was perpetrator of genocide in the 1930s and 1940s and 1950s.
And as you talk with people overseas in Ukraine, what are they telling you?
Well, I just had a phone call this morning with our colleagues at the Ukrainian Catholic University in Lviv. They're very concerned, but you know, they themselves and many of the journalists that are now in Ukraine covering this story have remarked on how remarkably calm and stoic the people are. They're going about their lives as best as they can. They're prepared for the worst, but planning to carry on and build their democratic country as well as they can.
If things do worsen over there, do you expect that there will be Ukrainians who want to come here to the United States?
Certainly there will be, and there's deep concern about the potential for a refugee crisis. After the war broke out in 2014, and I think it's important for people to recognize that this is a war that's been ongoing, started in 2014. There already were over 1 million people, about 1.3 million people that were displaced from their homes internally.
We thank you so much for being with us here today, and I encourage everyone to visit the Ukrainian church in Hartford South Bend. It's absolutely amazing.
And the one in New Haven and Bridgeport and Stamford if they're so inclined.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Now, the police shortage. All over Connecticut, cities and towns are looking for some good men and women to protect and serve. The National Police Foundation reports that 86% of departments in the nation are short-staffed right now. But why? It's not COVID. At the State Police Academy in Meriden, these recruits number about 60. That's down from 100 in the previous class. They're going through training now, and some will become state troopers or local officers. But they won't be enough.
Not too many people are interested in law enforcement right now with the environment and society with law enforcement and just the changes legislations across the country. But we do our best trying to get the best qualified applicants that we can for the department.
Some blame the negative stories in the media about police and the talk and protests about defunding police. Others say the fact that policing has become more dangerous also discourages recruits. According to the FBI, 73 law enforcement officers were intentionally killed in the line of duty in 2021, the highest number in 20 years. Here in Connecticut, high-profile vehicular attacks on officers have also had a chilling effect on those entering the police profession.
I think just people are afraid of getting into law enforcement because they don't know what to expect over the next couple of years.
State Police Sergeant Junsik Moon has been on the force for 15 years and works to encourage people to enter the industry she loves. So if someone said to you, you know, I don't want to be a police officer because of the following reasons, how would you persuade them that they perhaps should become a police officer?
Well, everyone's experience is different and everyone comes from different backgrounds. So usually my approach is you have to kind of know what you want out of the career and know what you want later on in the future. So if you're looking for a steady career, it's not just a job that you're going to have for a year or two.
It used to be a 20-year career before being able to retire with full benefits. That is now 25 years as people live longer. And will the police shortage impact that? So they're up to 25 years. As people live longer and work longer, do you think that could even be extended to 30 years?
Well, I don't know. It's kind of a demanding job. I don't know if you want to do this for that long.
Sure.
But just the option of doing something for 25 years, like I said, it's not an easy job.
Of course, there are officers who work more than 25 years. One, in fact, comes from a well-known Connecticut police family with a dozen or so members of the family serving our state. This is a tough time of year for them because almost a year ago, they lost their first family member who died while on the force.
Most importantly about Matt, it wasn't all about being a cop for Matt. It was being a good father, good brother, good husband, great uncle, soon-to-be grandfather. Having Matt on the job as a resource and as a chief in another town was, you know, priceless.
Here at Glastonbury Police Headquarters, Captain Mark Catania has been on the job for 26 years, and he wore the badge in Middletown before that. He is serving now without his brother, Plainville Police Chief Matt Catania, who died last year.
We would talk every day, talk about everything, not just about police work, though. The brotherhood was extremely strong, more or less a best friend, other than just a chief, other than just a police officer. Very focused on the family.
If the name Catania sounds familiar, it should. There are Catanias serving right now on police forces in New Haven, New Britain, Simsbury, Bloomfield, Rocky Hill, Farmington, Storrs, Canton, and the state police.
We had 7 siblings, and out of the 8 of us, 4 of us became officers.
It started with Captain Catania's father, who was a Hartford cop. Did you look up to him? Was he an idol and he said, I want to do this someday?
Ever since we were little, all of us, we were little, we'd see our father come in uniform and everything. That's something that we set our goal. That's what we wanted to do, yes.
While there are some younger Catanias serving, like Matt Catania's kids, it is unclear what the future holds because of some of the same reasons Sergeant Moon talked about. And why do you think younger people don't want to go in to law enforcement with the same numbers they did years ago?
They're watching too much TV, I think, and the media is not at times very kind when it comes to what's going on. Again, the level of scrutiny is very high as to everything we're doing, and there's a lot of second guessing and a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking going on.
The Catanias have been fortunate. They haven't lost anybody in the line of duty. Chief Matt Catania died suddenly after an illness, and the anniversary of his passing on March 10th will be hard on the family and the brotherhood of police officers across the state.
Extremely difficult. My brother Matt had a very infectious personality, a very, very, very approachable type of person, and it was unbelievable with the outpouring of people that still to this day still have always had great thoughts about Matt.
Still to come, uncovering ancient history in suburban Hartford, how what researchers found underground could shed light on who lived in Connecticut thousands of years ago. And later, the crowded field for the U.S. Senate. We talked to another Republican hoping to face off against Senator Richard Blumenthal in November. That and more when This Week in Connecticut returns.